Good morning, everyone from fabulous Las Vegas. I'm Sarah O'Connell, and I'm so grateful to welcome you all from our part of this hybrid event at the Marjorie Barrick Museum at the campus of the University of Nevada in Las Vegas, where I am grateful to be a member of the College of Fine Arts as a sort of adjunct researcher person. So I teach in the theater department, and I'm so grateful to the scholars here who have always taken an interest in what the asylum does. And I'm so grateful that we even have someone who came to our opening in the audience today. And it's really wonderful. I also just want to share that we are really so coming off of couldn't have been a better opening. The audience really appreciated it. And I even received a spontaneous text from an audience member this morning that I had not expected to get, and we can talk about it later. But it was a wonderful, wonderful event. So thank you for your wonderful words, because the audience here loved it. And so Gigi I was kind enough to work with you, Sophie, and Catherine in making this event possible. And we've always enjoyed talking with Catherine at our asylum events. And I get to luxuriate this time at last, because now it is once again going back into the hands where it all started, with Sophie and Catherine at the helm as our fearless out of the wings leaders. And take it away, Gigi and Sophie.
I think we're going to hand over to Catherine actually, but
Oh,
what a warm
yes.
welcome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
What a delightful start. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that welcome, Sarah. It's lovely to see you, Gigi, and Sophie, of course. Sophie and I are both in London, and joining you from London. And it's quite wonderful to start off by hearing of the success of last night's opening of The Anemone and the Boar. So congratulations for that. You can see that my name is Catherine Boyle. Some of you might have seen me as a very large face in the back of the screen for some of the Asylum talks and chats after some of your productions. And it's really lovely to be back again with you. Today, oh, sorry, and I am part of the Out of the Wings Collective, as is Sophie. I'm going to tell you a bit about that in a minute. And today is going to be a discussion, a conversation around the play The Anemone and the Boar by Mónica Maffía from Argentina, and translated by Sophie Stevens, and then brought to the stage here by Asylum Theatre and Sarah and Gigi. I'm going to start off with a couple of minutes about what Out of the Wings does. I'm going to moderate the whole well, for us it's afternoon, for us it's late for the morning, this session with you. I won't mention time anymore. And we'll have a brief introduction, then we'll have a conversation with the creative team, which will include a bit of reading from the play, and then we'll open out to any questions from the audience. And we're expecting this should last about an hour and a quarter. So we'll start. Some of you might have heard of the Out of the Wings Collective before, but just for those of you who haven't, the Out of the Wings Collective is a group of people who are dedicated to the research, translation, and performance of theatre from the global Iberian world. And by the global Iberian world, we mean countries in peninsular Spain, Latin America, and countries across the world who speak those languages, Spanish, Portuguese, and associated languages. We are a collective of different practitioners, and by that means some of us are researchers, academic research, as well as translators. In the collective, we also have actors and directors. And in this enterprise of bringing the theatre from the global Iberian world, we're trying to create networks for the dissemination, for the sharing of the theatre, and to get this really rich and diverse theatre out as much as possible. In the first instance, for us, to the Anglophone world, but using English as a gateway language to other languages, and that's part of how we create our international connections. We do publications, we do mentoring of younger translators, of new and upcoming translators, and just in case any of you want to join, and Gigi and Sarah, and we can put links in in the chat, not now, but later on. We meet monthly to read a new translation of a play every month. And we've been doing this for more than 10 years now. We only stop once a year in August. So you can count for yourself the number of new play translations that we've done. With translators from internationally. And every year we have a festival of translated plays in a theatre in South London in order to create new audiences. So that in broad terms is what we do as Out of the Wings. This connection with Asylum Theatre is the perfect example of one of the successes of Out of the Wings, and one of the things that we were set up to do. We set ourselves up to do in the first place, which is make these international connections for theatre in translation. There is the foundation story, I'm calling it now, of Gigi getting in touch with me to say that she had plays by her grandfather, who we've now, Rafael Guizado, who we've now translated and performed. And from there, this a very simple connection. All these things start from very simple connections. We've built up a wonderful relationship with Gigi and a translation of her work and works that she's translated, but through Gigi to the Asylum Theatre. And it's really fantastic that it's not the first play you've done here, but you're doing the Anemone and the Boar in Sophie's translation. We did it in the Out of the Wings Festival in the first place. It's been published and it's there. So this journey, this trajectory of the plays is really exemplified by what's happening this evening. And I'll just say one last thing. I went to the Asylum Theatre once, and I said in my last meeting with you online, I got there and my reaction was, I really know this place. This place is a place that I can really connect to and take in my heart. So it's really very special to be with you online again. So we're going to start now with the first part, really, of just getting to know the creative team, getting to know the play a bit, and then opening out to you. At any point during the conversation, for those of you online, if you wanted to put some questions in the chat, you can start whenever you want, and then during the conversation later on, we'll monitor the chat and any raised hands. I don't know many people have got online, but we'll go ahead with that. So for the beginning, I'm going to start with the most simple question. It's always a good place to start, to ask Sarah and Gigi and Sophie to introduce yourselves and your role in this production and play. And maybe we'll start with Sophie being the translator here, and then move to Gigi and then to Sarah.
Hi everyone, thank you. And yes, hello from London, where it's a really sunny evening. And I'm really delighted to be here. I'm Sophie Stevens, and I'm the translator into English of this play, The Anemone and the Boar. And I'm also a member of the Out of the Wings Theatre Translation Collective, and have worked on many other translations of plays, particularly from Uruguay and Argentina, but from other places as well. And because most of us wear several hats, I am also a university professor. So I am a senior lecturer in Latin American and Caribbean studies at the School of Advanced Study, which is part of the University of London. So I do teaching and research there. And I think it's important to acknowledge actually that some of the work, particularly with creatives, so to be able to pay actors to be involved in some of the readings that we did of The Anemone and the Boar when I was translating it, was funded through a research grant that I held at the time from the Leverhulme Trust, which is a UK research council that offers funding for different types of research in the humanities. And that allowed some of this collaborative work to happen, both with Mónica, the playwright, and with different actors and other creatives who were involved. And then that's laid the groundwork for other people to then continue that work. So thank you.
Thank you. Gigi, who are you? And what's your role here?
Oh, my role here is primarily as an actor. Yeah, so as a translator, I encountered Out of the Wings online, and as Catherine has noted, have been very fortunate to translate a number of plays and bring them through the Out of the Wings process of table readings and stage readings, and then again bring them even a step further to production here in Las Vegas with Sarah O'Connell's direction at the Asylum Theatre. And for the Anemone and the Boar, I have been an actor in that same pathway of page to stage, where first in 2021, Sophie invited me to play the role of Paquita in an online reading. It was during the pandemic times, and we were doing a lot of things online. And so that's where I became introduced to the play, was through that online reading and discussion. And then, sure enough, it went through Out of the Wings. The Anemone and the Boar made its way into Out of the Wings Festival 2023 at Omnibus Theatre in London. And at that time, I played the role of Carmen, which was a lot of fun. So I've had my experiences with this play from different perspectives, and I just love the play so much that when it was being published, I made sure to get a copy of it into the hands of Sarah O'Connell, and I'd already been speaking very highly of this play and pitching it as a play that I hoped that we would eventually do in Las Vegas, and that time is now. So last night I had the great pleasure of sharing it on stage, directed by Sarah, here in Las Vegas. And I played the role of Paquita once again, but with the whole shebang. Lights, sound, costumes, invited audience of beloved fellow theater makers and colleagues who really appreciated the work. It was really thrilling. I wish that you all could have been here with us.
How we wish we could have been here with you. All of a sudden, when you said with all the lights, we had a glorious memory of our stage reading and you being the sound engineer on stage. Gigi, for everyone that's here, it was a delight to be held. I'm going to move to Sarah now and move into the next question as well, which is about the staging. You know, what I know this could be an endless question, Sarah, but briefly, what motivated you to produce this play? And for anyone who might not have seen it yet, why should they come along to
Oh,
see it?
yes.
Unless you're sold out and you don't want anyone coming.
Well, I was excited. It was an intimate venue, but I really believe that was the best way to meet this work, especially for us as a first time. I'm always aware that we have to be delicate, especially with the translation, because a lot of delicacy goes into the work that you all do as translators. And my work with Gigi has just really helped me deepen and grow my empathy for that element of the process, which I do believe has contributed to my much richer relationship to poetry and the architecture of metaphor through poetry in theater, because of how we understand language works. It's just a better way for directors to understand, I think. I think now I would actually put theater translation as a mandatory undergraduate requirement and experience of that, because now I feel like it's like trying to teach about theater without actually meeting a person. I really do. That's how I feel about it now. So first of all, it was a translation. It was a Latin American translation. And as I explained to the audience after the show last night, I believe that we hear a lot in science, you hear scientists talking about dark matter, they know it's there, but they can't see it or measure it. And I always tell them, they say they don't know what it is. And I'm like, no, only the men who were in the room who called themselves scientists who agree say they don't know what things are, but we live with it anyway. So in the arts is where you learn all the things that you can't explain yet, right? And so I find that this play is a wonderful example of all the things that were right in front of my face as an American woman who has been taught what I thought was a lot about World War I and II. And I know a lot about certain aspects of history from this time period, but our history is usually overtaken with discussion of the Dust Bowl and the domestic economic crisis. So our internal migrant crisis, they don't talk about what goes on in Europe between World War I and World War II. So that was interesting. This was, the theater, you ask, why this, why now, why theater?
Yeah.
And so it answered all three. It was this because it provides a service. We must learn what we don't know. And it was such a dramaturgically excellent piece of work. That alone should be a master's thesis. That I think I gave myself in short order studying for this play. And so I think that was that. It was actual information. So there was true knowledge, real education there, and that's factual. And that's in addition to the true education, which is emotional, which is, I believe, the science of art is, again, poetry can be very precise about the energy of emotions that math problems cannot. And then the last thing was, why theater? Because it's a play about radio and war. If it's about war, it's about theater. And if it's about communication, it's about theater. And if it's about us now, this play is about when radio took over and upset the apple cart and gave power, redistributed power. Rebels had as much power as the government. All of that was there. Just all the implications of the time was in this 54 pages of masterful work. So I guess the real answer is, how could I not?
That's what a beautiful answer, and how wonderful to hear you talk about what theatre translation and working in theatre through translation
They're synonyms to me now.
That's brought to you. But it's really precious, because obviously when we work in theatre translation, we get, we work, as you say, that delicate, fine work that we're doing. But it's really great to hear you as a director and a producer talking about it in that way. I'm going to move now to Sophie, just because we're on the translation question, and to start that conversation perhaps with you and Sophie as well, and Gigi. And it's about, actually, we're changing the order of the questions here slightly, Sophie, but since we're talking about translation, it doesn't matter. It's about the translation process, and then we'll come back to to the several readings, but perhaps we can get that through. But just thinking about what Sarah said, thinking about your own process, it'd be lovely to hear you talk about this. And I think the audience would really appreciate hearing how you got through this very complex play. Very beautiful play and complex, yeah.
It is very complex and very beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for those really kind words, Sarah. It's I think for me, whenever I'm translating for performance, so translating theatre, but this could apply to poetry and other types of performance art as well, you really want to hear the play. And Monica had sent me the play in Spanish, and we did bits of reading together. But I knew I was going to translate it, and I was working on it, and there is that time when you're on your own with the text, and I was very keen to get it out there to be able to hear the play in the voice of colleagues and then actors and then many other people. And I think that that's so important when you're translating for performance, because it brings up things about the character dynamics that you maybe hadn't noticed. It brings up things about rhythm and repetition that maybe had kind of not seemed as important when you were working on the text on your own, or maybe other things had taken priority, and the different dynamics and situations of the play. And this play is set in a radio studio, as I think Gigi said already. It's set in a radio studio, three women working together to create a radio program. And I think for me, one of the things that was so intriguing and exciting about this play is that we see so many different aspects of the women's work and their relationships and their characters. So we see them as presenters on air working to produce a really varied program. We also see them within the programs as actors, because they are the ones who perform a radio play that actually forms part of the program. So you see kind of another artistic side to them. There are really playful moments where they cover up the mic and they add a bit of extra commentary to something. So they maybe have just had to read a news item or comment about a particular artist or something. And then they cover up the mic and they have a little exchange between themselves. And that reveals, an extra level and layer of how they relate to the material that they're presenting. There are also really beautiful moments before and after each of the radio programs, and indeed when they put on, say, a longer piece of music where they talk to each other and we see the dynamic between them, how their relationships build, what the different tensions are that are affecting the way they do their work, what their dreams are, their aspirations are, and also how how they become closer as a group of women, both as artists and as activists. So there's so many different kind of aspects to their characters that we see in this very intimate environment. And for me, hearing the play in translation, seeing if I'd enabled the actor to move through all those different shifts, to get that playfulness, to get that seriousness, because there are very serious moments when the women feel under threat, when they reveal their fears to one another. And I wanted to make sure that for each of the characters that those shifts were there, and that I had captured the different voices within each of the characters. And so for me, readings were so important in developing this play, perhaps more than any other, and making sure that I had brought into all of those movements the research and the work that I had done on my own before sharing it. So going back to when I was first encountering the play, this is a play that is such a gem for doing so much research, because there are so many characters, so many artists mentioned within the radio program itself. That's a whole type of research, but there's also the context. And again, putting my other hat back on as a researcher and a teacher in a university environment, this is a great play to work with students and other researchers with, because it sort of asks some very simple questions. Okay, who's that person they just mentioned in a radio program? And then it asks you to ask much more complex questions about, well, why are certain people featured on the radio program and others not? What did censorship really mean at that time, and why? And what was the broader context in which they were working? And so I've had the opportunity to work with this play, as well as in some performances, as in workshops with students and other researchers. And that's also really fruitful and really exciting. So it's a play that has had lots of different types of sharings and lots of different types of research and reworking has gone into it to get it to this stage.
I think that you're giving such a good sense of the multiplicity of the process of translation, and so much of what is involved. It takes you in so many different directions, sometimes at the same place, and how collective it is from your work. The thread is always, and the backbone is always going to be this text that you're developing, but the work that is done collectively is so central to this, and it's a process and Out of the Wings that we really value and develop. That will take us to Gigi. I mean, you mentioned, Gigi, before, that you had you've been in part of this play from the beginning with Sophie. You've been in performances and now the production. It'd be really interesting if you could say just a bit about that process, especially after having had your triumphant first night, opening night last evening, because you've done this play now in this multiplicity of sharings and productions.
Yes, well, thank you. There are a couple of things that have sunk in over this process, and reflecting on the years that I've been involved. One of them is that it's such a multi-layered play, which is the part of the beauty of this play. You've got the poetry, not just Shakespeare, but Lorca and the intertwining of those, which, if that were a play on its own, that would be fascinating, just that aspect. But that is only part of, that's layered on top of three women putting on a radio play, or putting on a radio show, a radio serial. And then that is on top of what's going on politically at that time. So the many layers of all that, the dramaturgy of all that is, I think, thicker than any play I've done before. Right? Just to do a Shakespearean play would be a lot of research, a lot of dramaturgy, just if you were just going to put on Venus and Adonis. If you were just going to do Lorca, it would have its own hours of dramaturgy. But this has layers and layers of it. And each time that I do the play, I am able to absorb more of it. For me, at some point I reach my saturation point with how much information can I absorb. Plus, really, as the actor, my number one goal is to absorb all of the dialogue and be able to say it. But I need the dramaturgy to know what I'm talking about. Anyway,
can I just ask you, Gigi, given that the other two actors that you're working with haven't come across the play, this is their first encounter.
Yes.
How did they find that? It's far too broad a question, but I'm interested in how they found that and how your conversation with them as an actor for the stage went, perhaps, with your knowledge of the play, with your knowledge of the thickness, and they're coming to this pretty new.
Yeah. Well, I wish they were here to be able to speak for themselves. I would say that I would offer my suggestions, my past experiences where I felt it was helpful. I credit Sarah with doing so much dramaturgy. She really held up that end and was very generous with us, not only in the free flow of a tremendous amount of information, but also saying to us, if this helps you, use it. If it doesn't help you, don't worry about it. So no one felt like overwhelmed, like they had to understand all of it, which I think is a bit much to swallow all of it on your first go. So it was wonderful that Sarah provided us the information, but didn't make anyone feel like they had to understand all of it deeply. Just pick and choose what's going to help you. We were, I think one of the biggest challenges for us was going as actors, was going back and forth between the spontaneous discussions, the spontaneous speech that happens between the broadcast segments, our private conversations, because that part is all memorized and extemporaneous, needs to seem as though it's extemporaneous in our acting. But then that's separate from the part that we are reading the news, right? The part that we're delivering the news is something that is, for the characters in the play, scripted. And then that is separate. And we, as the characters in the play, stray from it sometimes with our own spicing it up or censoring it. And then the third part of the dialogue is the reading of Venus and Adonis. And for Carmen, the Foley art sound effects that go with that. So I would say it was a relief to know that some of it was going to be printed and you could follow along with that. But that also presents its own challenge of when am I thinking, when am I pulling from just my memory? When am I reading something from a script, and which script? Is it Venus and Adonis or is it the news? Was a lot to track.
That sounds, gosh, I want to be there. I want to be there listening. I don't know if Sarah or Sophie want to come in there just again briefly, because it'd be interesting to hear the other part of this. Sarah, you've jumped into my screen, so go for it.
The thing I love about theater, the reason why I love theater, is that every element of the mise en scène has its own timeline in the journey. And so you can track the play through every wavelength, follow a character. You could follow just the references that they make. Okay, what's the story she's telling of the impact on the cultural world by the journey? What happens to the arts world through what we hear in the reports? You know, we go back and track to go back and track what was Mola doing, the real director, and what were his actions. I had to go back and study the entire history of the war to look for what were the points in the war that I think was motivating the emotion of that next program.
Wow. Yeah.
Because so for me, Gigi's worked with me enough to know that this gets me where I live. Like this is like bring it on, because it's like challenge accepted. Because I love the research, because that's like the answers are in our human experience, and that's the why of theater, is to make that knowledge embodied again, so we can. I believe you need that 3 generations of embodied knowledge for something to become that lasting institutional, like shared legacy. And I don't think it's an accident that it's lining up with a lot of theater theory that's coming into new view in my elder statesman years now of directing 35 years. So I find that this play was wonderful for me at this moment in my career.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you meet plays, you know how like sometimes you get a great show, but you wish you'd get it 10 years later.
Yeah,
You're like, I got to do this one again when I've had a few more life things happen. Or you have things happen and then you go, I'm doing that play again because now I know how to direct that play. And that's just, you know, great plays. Well, when you change, the great plays say, meet me again, because it's time to like meet yourself again. And that's how you check yourself. Like, how have I evolved as a director when I read this play now? It's my feedback loop as a person. And I use that to help inform how I feel it can help be a feedback loop for the audience. And so I thought, okay, a show that has all kinds of great layers of dramaturgy is like a buffet. Eat more art, lady. Because as I told the actors, you could be interested in the history and be here because you like politics, and what motivates the actor, the person who's Paquita, might be a political story. Or it might be the song on the radio. You know, what we're going through in a time like we are today is the intensification of everything, and putting the entire Spanish Civil War fight into that concentrated space of 2 women and a third woman in this small radio station but they are constricted. They know I have all the truth inside of them, just as there's all the truth outside that station. But they're only getting it through those microphones and the headphones of Carmen, and it's the same way for the people of Spain. So I found that every layer of dramaturgy unlocked a structure of poetry in the writing, and I find it masterful because it is there to support and unify in a way that I believe is that truth about translation. When it's the consideration, it's the mindfulness of having to translate the word, because I've now come to understand how much you're not just deciding what building block goes there, you're deciding if it should be made of like sand or stone or glass in order to reconstruct the play. And when I ask myself, why did they make that choice as a translator? It's like they did a whole bunch of homework for me as a director, because that's the first reading of the play in its original form. And I understand that I am reading a reinterpretation of an interpretation. And when I can study the difference between those 2 things, the truth leaps right out. So I just find that was all those layers make me confidence about our poetry. Yeah.
Do you know, Sarah, I'm just thinking that we all need to sit down and have a conversation that we tape with this and publish it, because it's so rich what you're saying.
I feel like this is where
it's so wonderful. I think it's time maybe Sophie, I don't know if you want to come in just now. We just go straight to Mónica, but if there's anything that Sarah or Gigi have said that you wanted to have a quick comment on, then we'll go to Mónica.
No, why don't we hear from Mónica, and then we can come back to me.
Then we'll come back. We'll have a chance.
Yes.
And then
Mónica, yes.
Yeah. No, that's good, because we'll come back to people after listening from Mónica. Now, Mónica Maffía, the dramatist of this remarkable play, isn't able to join us in real time, so she's prepared a video to share with us, which is insights into why she chose this particular lens or perspective in setting the play in the radio station. And she's going to talk about one of the characters, and she's going to read a little of Paquita's monologue in Spanish, and then we're going to hear that same extract in English from Sophie, and then, as prepared by Gigi for the production. So that gives us a chance to hear this journeying of the piece.
Hello there, I'm Mónica Maffía from Argentina. I'm the author of The Anemone and the Boar, La Anemone y el Jabalí. I decided to set the play on a radio studio because I work in radio. I have a radio show, Shakespeareana, is all about Shakespeare, which is one of the reasons why there is also a radio theatre in The Anemone and the Boar. The sound language which I love, Shakespeare, radio, theatre. So those are the ingredients of this play. I decided to set it in a radio studio also because could be a claustrophobic place when you think in the 30s and the censorship, etc., all that atmosphere. And then I thought, why not one of the girls could be also married to someone who is also the censor of the radio, just to make things and decisions more difficult in that life in those days and in those violent times and dangerous times. So I thought it is a caldo de cultivo could be the radio studio. I'm going to read a little bit in Spanish of Paquita, who is the wife of the censor, and she's frightened, she's fed up, she's jealous, and she's also desperately needing to go back to the arts. So I'll read just a bit of you. Otra vez ir a ver Kiki en el Coliseum. Otra vez la misma revista. Ya fuimos al estreno. Y ahora me da la sorpresa de invitarme de nuevo a ver el éxito del momento. ¿Qué le pasa a mi marido con esa cocotte? Otra vez ir a aplaudir, a rabiar el número de tango. Tener que escucharla, repetirlo 2, 3 veces. Y después ir sonrientes a saludar a la famosa Celia Gámez. ¡Ah! Esta sí que canta. La Gran Imperio, que de mano en mano va, y ninguno se la queda.
I'm going to stop sharing. Are we back to
Yes.
room? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Amazing. I love it.
That was so
was
good.
so cool.
Beautiful
Yeah.
to hear. So I'm glad we were able to
Thank you,
share.
Sophie, for getting that to work.
And now I have the difficult task of following. That's a tough act to follow, but I agreed that I would read from the English translation the same scene. And,
With singing and dancing?
No, not with singing and dancing, but what I am going to read the stage directions, and the reason I'm going to do that is so that you can see what Mónica was responding to when she was doing that, but also the stage directions are very detailed in this play because there are so many of those moments of interaction and moments of where people are using the music and the song to also express other things about how they feel, which is exactly what's going on in this scene. And I will just say that this scene happens, it's called Intermission 2. It happens about halfway through the play. We've seen a couple of radio programs already, so we're starting to understand more about Paquita already, about the pressures on her, about her relationships. And then this is an extra insight as she's preparing to go out one evening. So I'll read from the beautifully published edition by Inti Press. Paquita, in her underwear and with a few rollers in her hair, is sitting on the floor. She half-heartedly paints her toenails. She's extremely irritated. She speaks in a cruelly sarcastic way. A trip to see Kiki at the Coliseum again, and the same old review. We already went to the opening night, and now he surprises me by inviting me to go again to see the show everyone's talking about. What is it with my husband and this cocotte? We'll applaud like crazy for the tango again and have to listen to her perform it 2 or 3 times, and then after the show go all smiles to greet the famous Celia Gomez. Ugh. She turns on the cathedral radio and lies back to listen to Imperio Argentina singing Falsa Moneda, fake money. Now she really can sing, the wonderful Imperio. She stands up and starts to act and sing over Imperio Argentina's voice as a way to vent her anger, using the song to say everything that she cannot possibly say to Celia Gomez's face. The song is about a woman who is like fake money because she passes quickly from one person to another and no one wants to hold on to her for very long. Paquita starts to put on a long dress to get ready. Thank you.
Oh, gorgeous.
Thank you so much, Sophie. And now, Paquita
Wonderful.
from
Okay.
Gigi and this production.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sans costume, sans sound and lighting, but you'll get the idea.
We'll get the idea beautifully, I'm sure.
A trip to see Kiki at the Coliseum. Again. And the same old review. We already went to the opening night, and now he surprises me by inviting me to go again to the show everyone's talking about. What is it with my husband and this cocotte? We'll applaud like crazy for the tango again, and then have to hear her play it 2 or 3 more times. And then after the show, go all smiles to meet the famous Celia Gomez. Oh! Falsa moneda. There you have it.
Oh, that's wonderful, Gigi. Thank you so much. It's so
Well,
great.
that was
Thank you.
What a wonderful taste of the production.
You come to the show. If anyone comes to tonight's show, I actually do a little dance.
Ooh,
Wow.
To let out my
excellent.
frustration.
Oh, we get a real sense of it.
Yeah.
The Gigi, how wonderful. Thank you so much. And so how wonderful to hear those 3 that same moment 3 times. I'm wondering what that feels like to you, you know, in terms of hearing it, you know, because you go from Mónica, who's, you know, who does the performance and has this gesture and corporality that she puts into it, and it's obviously part of how she imagines the play in the first place. Then the work that you're doing as Sophie in order to allow the next actors and actresses to do that work again, and then Gigi, you know, giving us a sense of how you're embodying Paquita. I don't know if either of you or Sarah wants to say something about that, because it's such a mini joy of an illustration of that passage of the word and the text across, across geographies, across time. So if we're just for the audience as well, we'll have a little chat about this, and then we're going to open up to questions from the audiences. So yeah, go for it, whoever wants to start. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Gigi, and thank you, Sophie. I know how brave it is for the people who are usually on the other side of the pencil to be performing in any
I love that, the
way,
other side of the
but
pencil.
you're hired if you ever want to be in a show here because you are great.
That's all I needed. Thank
Sophie
you.
is a very good actor as well. We have to say that.
Well, I think that is a perfect demonstration of exactly what I was talking about at the beginning, about what I found in translation and what it reveals so perfectly. Just what, again, theater shows it faster. That act of theater teaches us about the theater, because I mean, the chance to hear Mónica, who's a brilliant actor all herself, but just to feel the writer enjoying their words is why I flew for one day just to see Lin-Manuel as Hamilton, because I knew that's like seeing Shakespeare give his own words. A playwright who can act and sing their song to you is like the holy grail for a director who only usually has sort of the crime scene evidence of the script. But to receive it after is wonderful too, because it was wonderful to hear in her what I felt I got out of Gigi. And that again is what's found in translation is the ultimate truth. And what I love is the different growls, right? Something like arg or sigh in a script, and you learn a lot about the actor. I believe that's one of the best. I have never shared this with you. My favorite cold read test. If I don't know anything about you and I give you something with that, and you just hear what they do with it, because that's like an ultimate as an actor, like, oh God, ugh, what do I say now they want me to do with the ugh? And so she gave it the full Argentinian R roll with hers, and then we had sort of the sort of British, like, steam pot, the steam comes out the ears more, right? Because nothing else is trying to, and then what we have is the Latina, the American Latina, who I think it shows so much about, I believe, what I love about the Latin American community in the United States of America. Some of us remember that we're not the only Americans. So that just the whole journey of kind of the original sort of sense of the people through the colonial sort of like view, and then back down when you put it in the hands of people where it's like, well, what are you going to do with it, America? And what you get is what I feel was a very gratifying, like, all the flickers, all the colors of the rainbow, right? Hearing those two, and then Gigi, they all helped each other's come alive.
Yeah,
right?
I so agree with all of that. Yeah.
The music of all the different layers of translation, I think with the right performer who truly allows themselves to be a cello, a viola, or a garbage can that gets banged against, like she does. The things that she can make emanate emotionally. And I'm joking to myself. This time I'm being kind to her because she gets to dance around in a gorgeous bathrobe and a spotlight. And this is the first time I haven't had her rolling on the floor. And because every other play I've had her in yoga or with a spear, like in Antigone.
We've seen that. Yeah, we've seen.
What physical acrobatics will I make her do this time? And so we let it go because the acrobatics were all in the announcement cards.
Yeah.
So
I'm so longing to see this production. You've also given us somebody a very good title for a translator's memoir, On the Other Side of the Pencil. I think I'm going to ask Sophie or Gigi just a couple of words, and then it'd be lovely to hear if there's any. And thank you, Sarah, so much. And then we'll go and see if there's any conversation with the audience. But I don't know who wants to start there. Shall
I say something? Well, it was just wonderful to hear Gigi doing that. And yeah, so beautiful, so moving. And I think I mean, I do enjoy reading aloud, and when I'm as part of my process, I'm often reading aloud, but I'm reading all the characters. So, that's why being able to share it and have other people and other voices is
Yeah.
so important for all of the reasons I talked about earlier on. But I do, I do experiment with that myself, and I do really enjoy it. But I think what I'm always doing is thinking, okay, like what is the potential of this
Yeah.
text, and what are the possibilities for future actors and future directors? And it was important to me to obviously translate all those stage directions and make sure all of that detail was in there. And I think it's important to say that Monica has directed this play in
Yeah.
Spanish, and so some of her very clear ideas about how it would be staged were in, or some of her clear direction was in those stage directions. But at the same time, there is a way to translate and work with the language that is there and the texture of the language that is there that still opens up possibilities and potential for future actors and future directors. And I think that this was a great demonstration of that, because I think that the language was there, but we were able to interpret it in different ways, and we were able to make different things of it. And obviously, Gigi, with all your fantastic actor training and experience, of course, that was kind of inevitable anyway. But I mean that there were different options and different choices that you
Absolutely. Yeah.
you could make, and that is what the theatre text in translation should offer. And that doesn't mean, there's endless possibilities. Obviously, you're working with that script and the information that's in there about the character, but there are ways of developing that in ways that
Absolutely.
I haven't yet imagined, and you've been
Yeah.
able to do that, and that's really beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sophie.
Sophie, for the beautiful words on the page that are so fun to interpret and to see, well, what can I glean from this, and how can I make this as rich as possible with only what's implied by the words that you've put on the page. So I picked up on, well, the again is in there a few times. So I really wanted to emphasize that. We have been to this show, and now we're going again. I have to listen to her sing it again and again and again, was important. The disappointment of the phrase, so he surprises me by inviting me to go again. I think that's such a rich phrase there, that at the invitation, she's on cloud nine. We're going to go out and do something wonderful. But then the sinking realization that no, wait, we're going to see something that we've already been to. There's nothing new about this at all. It's so he can see her again. And so the disappointment, the jealousy of both that, and then the word famous. I really wanted to bite into the word famous because there's jealousy there too, right? Paquita used to be an actress, but she's not the one in the show at the Coliseum. So all of that. And then to express it, again, all try and encapsulate it in that URGH exclamation point, exclamation point. So right now we're taking a question from Leah of the Art Therapy Cafe here in Las Vegas, where we were fortunate enough to rehearse for our production. So in just a moment, we will get her question.
So she wondered
Excellent. I
what the
love it.
inspiration was. So maybe Sophie could share that, since you translated.
The inspiration for writing the play, or for
Yeah,
translating it,
if
or
you
a bit
know,
of
if you can
both?
share what Monica has shared with you
Yeah,
about
now I'm
where
going
it
to
came
put
from.
words in Monica's mouth,
No,
but I'll
but just
try
in,
to do
yeah,
this.
just in general. They wonder where it's
Um,
so, like, where does this come from? The Spanish Civil War doesn't just fall out of the sky for a lot of people. So
no, it doesn't. I mean, if you think back to the video of Monica, I think that is quite a good illustration, actually, of how this play brings together things that she loves and is interested in. So she's interested in women as artists and their artistic production in lots of different ways. She is a specialist in Shakespeare and has indeed translated Shakespeare into Spanish and performed that herself. Um, she is interested in political moments of change, and I think she saw a lot of connections between the rise of types of censorship and types of attacks on artistic freedom that were happening at the time she wrote the play, in 2020, I think it was 2020, and and researching it before, and the Spanish Civil War. And so I think my from my conversations with her, she wanted to bring these things together. She was interested in those complex dynamics as well. She mentioned in the video, what if one of these artists who's producing a radio program was also married to someone who's involved in censorship, and how those tensions play out at home, at work, and beyond. And I think from what I know about her other work as well, she's very interested in the experience of women in their home lives, in their work lives, experiencing different types of prejudice as well. And this play brought lots of those things together. So I think it brings lots of her interests together, and lots of questions that she asks in different ways through her works. And when she sent it to me, I was actually working on a project that was about Latin American women dramatists as artists, activists, and agents of change. And I got this play, and I was like, not only is Mónica asking some of these questions, but she's showing this. This is also like a staging of what it means to be an artist and an activist and something in between, and maybe not even understand that that's what you're doing, because a lot of this is the women also asking questions of themselves and where they sit in this situation. And I was just really captivated by it, and we had lots of really interesting discussions when I was translating it. And I think that's really important, that Mónica and I've worked together on other translations as well. We had lots of discussions about this one and then other projects since.
Oh, that's amazing. I hearing you say that, it makes me think about how many times I commented to them about, when I was interested in doing this play a couple of years ago, it seemed like a warning. Then, as we were trying to find a venue to get it done, the events of the world evolved and evolved. And by the time we really were like, I did not want to wait any longer. I was like, this play has to happen. We've waited too long, or it's been too long for us. And I really felt like we must tell this story right now. And it was precisely because of what you said, that as the Asylum Theatre, like, to me, this project exemplifies what, like, you ask me what the Asylum Theatre is, and I will point to this project, because just like the play, because of the layers of consideration that have been passed on, the intersection, the story has moved, and it's even changed languages. And just like people can, the migration of humanity, but the truth of who we are, it's like still there. Like we all saw the same situation, and we're able to play the truth of that situation. And in this moment in time, I am, as the Asylum Theatre, have been for over 20 years here, trying to show Las Vegas, which is an entertainment city, what the why of theater really is. Because the only ones who get the true benefit of all the riches of theater and entertainment are the money people, or the people working for that paycheck, but maybe not in the show that is about what they believe. And last night was powerful. And I just do want to share, maybe this is the great way to sort of wrap that part up from our end, is that I received a text today from a member from a group called Las Vegas Indivisible. Now, for those people internationally, Indivisible is the largest pro-democracy movement that has been fighting to defend our democracy for 10 years. And every state, every community has a chapter. And I, for years, been trying to get people who are not into theater to see the theater as a tool for them. Right now, rich or poor, at their fingertips. And we do work in libraries and all this, but there's that class of people who want to do stuff but don't choose arts, but they want to make a difference. And so I've been going to those Indivisible meetings every week and talking about how the arts can do something. And someone came from that group last night to a place where we've never performed before. They've never seen our show. They were so moved by it. They emailed me this morning and said, we're having our next No Kings rally, and we want to do something with the arts. We want to improve engagement. Can you meet with us to tell us now what you can do? Because it was so impressive. So now they're finally asking me, Sarah, the individual. I have just been paquitaed right? But I also incarnated myself and I also Carmen myself because I took myself to the meeting like a Carmen and I taught it like a Carna. And now so the point is, look at that. Look at that. Nothing moves faster than theater because that's the power of love, which I believe is faster than the power of light. And this is I used that opportunity to try to talk to the people who came last night and said, this is an intimate group. You came to this play, look around and meet everyone. Shake a hand, take a phone number, because this is actually what theater did the first time we had a democracy. And this play did it. Like it walked the talk and our audience walked out doing that. And I've just never had that experience. I've never seen it. I've believed it. So I don't know what a better thank you back to the artists, back to Sophie, back to all of you, back to Out of the Wings than that. If you want to prove the truth of what you've been doing all these years, Catherine, well, I believe you all did it when you brought the Anemone and Boar to life in English for us. So thank you.
Thank you. What a wonderful, thank you so much, Sarah. I know that have been enormous amounts to Sophie, of course, and to all the work that we all do collectively for exactly what you said, the belief in connection and the challenge through connection. Thank you so much. Thank you to Sophie. Thank you to Mónica. We'll pass that on. Thank you to Gigi and Sarah. I don't know the names of the other actors in the piece. Do you want to just shout their names now?
Yes. Jackie Lacudis plays Encarnacion, and Lisette Hunter plays Carmen.
Well, send them our I don't know, our translators and directors and Out of the Wings love for tonight. And we will carry on working with you, we hope, over
yes, it's wonderful for us. And we've branched, I mean, we now work with people in Kyiv and in other countries. We've commissioned a new work that Out of the Wings, there's a person who actually works at the Omnibus who and they are they are working on original scripts of something called the Kafka Project that we commissioned for with our colleagues in Ukraine. And so Out of the Wings is responsible now for new work being written in other languages in war zones, because 100% that relationship and the trust that we built and being able to cross the streams. I mean, this is the profound thing that's happened by finding asylum with us and us finding you Out of the Wings. Thank you, Catherine, because without you, our sisterhood would not have a family.
It's so precious. I can't tell you how precious it is. And maybe just the thing to say for me to end on this, we always say the same thing. What we do is so simple. We read and we connect. What Gigi did to connect with us was so simple. She sent us a message by email. You know, I think if we can all believe in those very simple, seemingly small acts, we can create so much. And I think that is a huge, huge, huge consciousness that we need to have, and that I find perhaps the most heartening thing I can possibly think in the world at the moment, that we can all do big things through just making that very simple first step. So thank you to all of you this evening from London this evening, this broadcast from London this evening. Thank you to everyone.